The plaza buzzed with energy. Booths stretched in all directions, showcasing everything from levitating wheelchairs to personal water filtration pods that fit in your pocket. Drone couriers zipped through the air delivering coffee, while children tested magnetic shoes that let them walk up short walls under supervision. Scientists, inventors, students, and guests swarmed every corner, talking, sharing, laughing, and filming everything they could. The expo was alive. Tony walked beside Howard down the central path, the crowd parting subtly as they passed. "You remember Senator Adams, don't you?" Howard said, nodding toward a man near one of the green energy display towers. Tony gave a slight nod. "Still has that stick up his spine, or did he get it surgically replaced?" Howard didn't smile, but the twitch at the corner of his mouth was enough. "Play nice." He pushed through some of the early permissions for the Starfire initiative. "We need him." Tony adjusted his sleeve and extended a hand. "Senator. Glad you could make it." Adams, a stocky man with perfectly styled hair and eyes that missed nothing, shook his hand. "Mr. Stark. Or should I say, the revolutionary?" Tony smiled thinly. "Let's not get ahead of ourselves. That comes next week." Adams gave a humorless laugh. "You've got half of Capitol Hill calling me. Oil lobbyists are chewing glass. The medical board is in full-blown panic. What the hell did you just do?" "Made it a little harder to ignore people suffering," Tony said. "You're welcome." They talked for a few minutes before moving. Next came a woman in her 60s with silver hair and a cane, Irene Lane, director of the Stark Biomedical Division. She stood near a modular prosthetic display. A boy with one arm was trying on a new limb that responded to neural pulses in seconds. "Irene," Howard said, walking over. She turned and smiled. "Well, if it isn't both Starks in one place. What's the occasion, besides the world changing?" Tony returned the smile. "Just figured I'd check in on the ones actually making change happen." Irene gestured toward the boy. "This is why I never retired. Every year, something new makes it all worth it." A group of researchers approached next, foreign delegates from Europe, South America, and East Asia. Howard took over the introductions, handling them like a veteran businessman. Tony shook hands, nodded, and answered the occasional technical question, but his eyes were always scanning the expo around him. He was watching it happen. Real change. Not theoretical. Not hidden behind patent walls or NDA clauses. Open. Flowing. A few booths down, a college team from Nairobi was demonstrating a solar-powered atmospheric water extractor. A crowd had formed around them, cheering when they poured clean water into a waiting glass. Howard leaned in. "We built a company. But this? This feels like something bigger." Tony looked around. "It's because it is. This is what the world looks like when the smart people get a seat at the table instead of a bill." They paused in front of a display showcasing Susan Storm's recode simulations. There was a line forming of people just wanting to talk to her team. Mutants, parents, doctors, some hopeful, some skeptical, all listening. Tony watched in silence for a moment, then said, "You still think I should have scaled it back?" Howard didn't answer right away. He followed his son's gaze, took in the moment, and said, "No. You did what I couldn't. You took the fire and walked straight into the storm with it. Just be ready for the blowback." Tony smirked. "Always am." Over the next few hours, they talked and met many important people. Approximate 3 hours later, backstage, the noise of the crowd faded behind thick reinforced walls, replaced by the low hum of cooling fans and the quiet buzz of light panels overhead. Cables ran neatly along the floors, and a few stagehands hustled back and forth, managing feeds and schedules. Tony ducked past a row of curtain-draped partitions, loosening his collar as he moved toward the corner of the green room, then stopped. Maria Stark sat calmly at a small folding table, legs crossed, a linen napkin laid out like she owned the place. On the table, 2 sandwiches wrapped in wax paper, a pitcher of lemonade, and a pair of glasses already sweating with condensation, she didn't look surprised to see him. She poured a glass without looking up. "Grilled turkey on sourdough," she said. "With extra mustard. Because you always come down from adrenaline with a crash and then get snappy when your blood sugar dips." Tony blinked, then slowly walked over. "How did you even know I'd be back here right now?" Maria glanced up, one brow raised. "You've done 3 full circuits of the expo floor," your tone shifted mid-speech, "and your left hand kept twitching when you talked to the senator. That's your about to vanish for 10 minutes tell." Tony pulled out the chair and dropped into it. "Either I'm way too predictable, or you're still secretly psychic." "You're not predictable. You're just mine," she said, handing him a glass. "And I know how my son thinks when he's holding the world in one hand and pressure in the other." Tony took the glass, sipped, and let out a long breath. "You didn't have to come loaded with snacks." "I'm 22. Maria gave him a look. "You're 22 and stubborn. You'd rather pass out from low blood sugar than admit you forgot to eat." He unwrapped the sandwich. "Okay, valid point." For a few moments, they sat in silence. The muffled sound of the expo filtered in, cheering, announcements, the low murmur of hundreds of voices, all orbiting the storm he'd stirred up. Maria reached across the table, brushing a piece of lint off his sleeve. "You know they're going to push back, right? The ones with power. The ones who made their empires out of people staying quiet and sick." Tony nodded, chewing slowly. "Yeah. I saw it in their faces already. Some of them want to throw lawsuits at me. A few probably want to throw grenades." She smiled faintly. "Let them try. Just don't carry all of this alone." He looked at her. "You mean, let you worry?" "I mean, let us help," she said. "You've built something amazing. But even fire needs tending." He leaned back in the chair, watching the condensation trail down the side of his glass. "I didn't expect today to feel like this." Maria tilted her head. "Like what?" Tony exhaled through his nose. "Like it mattered. Like people actually saw it for what it is." She smiled again. This one was proud. Bright. Sharp. "It's because they did, sweetheart. And you didn't just give them a new future. You gave them hope and the belief that there are still good people in this world who care for them." Tony looked down at the last bite of his sandwich. "God, you're good." Maria reached for her lemonade, her smile widening. "I had practice. Your father used to fall apart every time he invented something important, too. And he didn't even have nanotech or media coverage." Tony stood slowly, brushing crumbs from his hands. "Thanks for the fuel up, Mom." "So, you, Natasha, and Yelena," she said with a knowing smile. Tony paused mid-step, then turned back, eyes narrowing with exaggerated suspicion. "What do you mean you, Natash, and Yelena?" Maria sipped her lemonade, unfazed. "Oh, please. You think I haven't noticed the sideways looks? The hushed conversations? That little smirk you get when someone mentions their names?" Tony scratched the back of his neck. "Okay, first of all, there is no smirk. That's just my face processing complex logistics. And you only met them like thrice." Maria raised a brow. "Complex logistics. Is that what we're calling feelings now?" He slumped back into the chair with a groan. "We are. It's complicated." Maria leaned forward, folding her hands on the table. "I don't need to know if it's complicated or not. I just need to know if my son is happy." Tony didn't even need to rethink his private life's decision and his love life. He simply loved them both, and they loved him. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I am." Maria nodded once, satisfied. "Good. Then don't screw it up." "Wow. That was fast." No questions? No, what are your intentions with my son, moments? Tony asked. No. I talk to them often, behind your back of course, when Yelena calls me to learn cooking or Natasha calls me to know your favorite books and music. Well, I trust them. I just hope you know what you're doing. And as long as you are happy, I'm good, she replied with a warm smile. A few minutes later, Tony left the backstage room feeling lighter, the last of the sandwich fueling more than just his body. He buttoned up his suit jacket again and made his way through the quieter side corridor of the expo center, moving past the buzzing control stations and reinforced partitions that he headed toward the VIP section. After everything she'd pulled off today, he figured Susan deserved a check-in. He reached the door marked VIP 7 and knocked twice. Susan stood there, sleeves rolled up, hair now loose from the formal bun she'd worn earlier. Her expression relaxed into something warm the second she saw him. You survived the mob, she said, stepping aside. Barely, Tony said. But your section stole half the spotlight. So I figured I'd come and borrow some back. She smirked and motioned for him to enter. Come in. I want you to meet a couple of people. Inside, the room was big, designed for comfort with soft couches, a stocked refreshment bar, and a wall screen still looping expo highlights. But it was the two figures inside that caught his attention. A younger guy leaned back on the couch, clearly mid-story, gesturing animatedly with a bottle of soda in one hand and a bag of chips in the other. Blonde hair, movie star jawline, and the kind of chaotic charm Tony could spot a mile away. The other was solid. Broad-shouldered, red hair, wearing a simple jacket and jeans. His posture was more reserved, but the way his eyes tracked Tony showed a sharp awareness. Susan walked over and gestured between them. Tony Stark, meet my brother, Johnny Storm. And that over there, trying to look like he's not bored by all of this, is Ben Grimm. Johnny grinned and stood, offering a handshake. Big fan. The new holographic tech made my job 1,000 times easier. And your presentation was just awesome. I saw those investors' faces. Ha! They must have lost billions of dollars, all thanks to you. Good job. You just destroyed some people and probably made them poor. Tony shook his hand. Johnny Storm. You're the one who turned down a full ride at Caltech to build a rocket bike in your garage? Johnny shrugged, not at all ashamed. And it flew. For 12 seconds. Then exploded. But those 12 seconds were beautiful. Tony chuckled, already liking him. Then turned to Ben and offered his hand again. And you must be the infamous college roommate who could bench press a car. Ben got up and took the handshake, strong grip, and grounded presence. Just the front half of the car. It was an old Volvo. Susan sat on the arm of the nearest couch and watched the three of them, clearly enjoying the subtle dynamic test happening in real time. So, Tony said, glancing between them, you two thinking of joining the big cosmic science ride? Johnny nodded. Susan gave us the overview. Space. Radiation. Closest to the sun sounds like a Tuesday. Ben leaned against the wall with arms crossed. Sounds insane. But I trust her. If she's going, I'm not far behind. Tony raised an eyebrow at Susan. You already pitched them? She shrugged. They've known about my research for years. And you said I could bring 2 people. I chose the ones I'd trust to hold the line if the ship exploded. Johnny turned to Susan. Wait, it might explode? It was a metaphor, Susan replied dryly. Tony rubbed his chin. I mean, it's not off the table. But we've got eject systems. Mostly. Ben exhaled and shook his head. Jesus. Johnny flopped back on the couch, arms spread out. Okay, but hear me out, what if it explodes and we get washed over by cosmic radiation? Do we get superpowers? You know, like mutants? Johnny, Sue gave him that look. What? Just curious, he shrugged. Tony snapped his fingers. That's the energy I like to hear. Susan rolled her eyes. Don't encourage him. Tony looked around the room again, more thoughtful now. This is it. The perfect team. Instead of Reed, it'll be him. Think of this as an interlude chapter. And as usual, just don't bring up numbers, lol. Rolling on the floor laughing. The world didn't change overnight. It took some time. Location: Wall Street, New York City. Day 3 post-expo. The stock market plunged harder than it had since the Great Depression. Medical conglomerates that had monopolized diagnostic imaging saw their shares plummet by double digits within 48 hours. Investors scrambled to unload stocks in legacy companies producing X-ray, MRI, and CT scan machines. Lawsuits were drafted. Lobbyists started calling in favors. None of it worked. Ticker after ticker turned red. Medigen Incorporated, down 92%. Neuroscan Solutions, bankruptcy filed. Pathcore Diagnostics, liquidated. RX Life Imaging, delisted. Emergency meetings were called. Lobbyists scrambled. Boardrooms erupted into finger-pointing frenzies. But it was already too late. Every major hospital and clinic had already placed orders for AMS units. Location: Global Medical Networks HQ, Boston. What do you mean they cancelled? They cancelled everything. Our contracts. Our machines. They don't need full-body MRI anymore when Stark Tech is scanning in 5 minutes without the radiation. But, we own the market. You owned it. Stark just gave it away at $80 a unit. Location: Public Clinic, Chicago, Illinois. Week 1 post-launch. The line outside wrapped around the block. Inside, a nurse slid a compact AMS scanner over a young woman's abdomen. In less than 3 minutes, a live 3D model displayed a tiny, dark irregularity. "Ma'am," the nurse said, pointing to the screen, "that's a tumor pressing against your lower intestine. Early stage. Completely treatable." The woman covered her mouth, tears welling up. She'd been denied screenings 3 times due to cost. Stark's machine just saved her life, for free. Incident log: AMS confirmed life saves. Week 2, Newark, NJ, a 12-year-old collapsed at school. AMS unit flagged a burst blood vessel near his brainstem. Emergency responders rushed him into surgery. Full recovery. Phoenix, AZ, an elderly man was found unconscious in a park. AMS scanner showed signs of carbon monoxide poisoning from a nearby maintenance leak. The leak was located. 27 lives saved. Atlanta, GA, post-accident trauma victim appeared stable. AMS scan revealed microfracture in the spinal cord. Surgery was performed within the hour. Paralysis avoided. Hospitals that once charged thousands for delayed, incomplete diagnostics were forced to adapt or shut down. The AMS had become standard. Globally. Location: LAPD HQ, downtown Los Angeles. Week 2 post-expo. The Aegis training program went live. 2 weeks. Rigorous. Immersive. No shortcuts. Each officer ran drills inside simulation chambers designed by Stark AI, threat analysis, non-lethal takedowns, crowd control without escalation, mental health protocols, and live-fire reaction tests under heartbeat monitoring metrics. Those who passed were certified with body metrics, reflex maps, and emotional stress tracking. The Aegis suit knew its wearer better than their own partner, and when these newly trained cops with the suit finally hit the streets, footage: downtown Detroit, Week 3, 2 armed robbers took hostages inside a pharmacy. Traditional SWAT had the perimeter. Clock ticking. Tensions rising. Then, one officer in an Aegis suit walked in, unarmed, the suit's HUD lit up in real time: threat level, yellow hostage vital signs, elevated suspect micro-movements, analyzed exit routes, predicted tactical suggestion, voice calibration 3.1/ non-lethal pulse glove ready in under 22 seconds. One suspect was disarmed by a shockwave pulse, the other stunned by an auto-deploy adhesive round. No shots fired. No injuries. A local kid streamed it live. The video hit 17 million views in 24 hours. Caption: "This is how it should be done." NYPD, Chicago PD, Seattle PD, deployment rolled fast. The suits did something that no one expected. Stop the corrupt cops. Misuse of power triggered lockdowns, immobilizing the wearer. Data streamed directly to oversight boards. Brutality dropped 76% in the first 2 weeks of implementation. Now, the corruption rate has also decreased, and the corrupt ones have been exposed. Thanks to the data shared to the boards, many gangs and criminals were arrested faster than they could escape, and other countries noticed. Location: Geneva, International Security Summit. Requests flooded in. Japan wanted 500 suits for their elite riot response teams. Germany placed a test order for border patrol applications. Brazil signed a contract for favela-based rapid medical/rescue hybrids of the Aegis model, and many more. International trade around Stark Tech boomed. Old defense contractors left in the dust. 3 months later, the energy war had begun. Location: Wall Street, energy sector. The ticker feeds bled red. Texaco down 61%. Gulf Oil delisted. ExxonMobil halted pending review. Shell in talks to restructure. Investment firms scrambled. Calls went unanswered. Analysts on live television looked visibly pale. The oil giants were collapsing way too fast. Why? Because Tony Stark flipped the switch on the energy economy. Reality followed. He wanted to hold back, but with the space mission coming up soon, he decided to amp up his creations and release them as fast as possible because up there, anything can happen. He just didn't want his creations to rot in some lab. The announcement: 2 weeks ago, Tony's voice played across the world. Microreactors, clean, compact, power output, up to 3.8 gigawatts, lifespan, 17 years, size, backpack, installation cost, $1, $200. Maintenance, $20 every 6 months. Fuel? None. Just stabilized zero-emission cores, first public units shipping next month. No one believed it at first, until he demoed one on live television by powering a midtown Manhattan block during a planned blackout. "Ladies and gentlemen," Tony said, sipping coffee on a rooftop as lights blinked on across the city, "that apartment, that deli, that elevator, that traffic light, well, this entire block, is running on a core the size of a thermos." Global headlines that week: newspaper oil is over. The $5 trillion collapse begins. Newspaper Tony Stark cripples coal in under 72 hours. Newspaper electric companies warn of unmanageable disruption. AS users cancel grid dependency. Newspaper NASA signs exclusive deal for microreactors. Plans lunar base in 1992. Location: Texas, oil refinery shutdown footage. News helicopters circled above as a refinery shut down operations. Thousands of workers poured out of the gates. Some confused. Some furious. Some already packing up. "They told us energy was forever," one manager said. Turns out they were just renting the future while Stark went and bought it. Location: Tokyo, clean car rollout. The Stark Motors EV line launched silently on Japanese roads. NOGAS.NO charge times.NO exhaust.NO sound, just pure, endless torque and performance. Auto dealers were mobbed. Toyota and Honda, caught flat-footed, scrambled to catch up. Volkswagen tried to sue. The lawsuit was dismissed in under 24 hours. Electric grid panic, governments panicked. Utility companies begged for regulation. Power plants started shutting down out of sheer irrelevance. People were returning rented generators. Solar panel suppliers slashed prices by 80% overnight. Entire electric grids were being dismantled. Stark Tech energy pods, suitcase-sized reactors, were now running. Homes, airports, cargo ships, satellites, airplanes, farms, subways. One farmer in Nebraska powered his entire operation: silos, irrigation, sorting lines, with one unit and a couple of cables. Environmental impact: 90 days in, carbon emissions dropped 42% globally. Air quality in Shanghai improved by 60%, ozone regeneration recorded near the poles, sea life spotted returning to oil drilled coastlines. Environmentalists wept. Literally, footage of a 9-year-old boy hugging his mother while pointing at a blue sky went viral. Caption: he's never seen clouds this clearly before. Energy giants retaliate, they tried, lawsuits, all dismissed. Sabotage attempts, tracked, caught, exposed by Stark AI, propaganda campaigns, debunked in real time, market manipulation, firewalled by blockchain-based Stark energy ledgers, transparent to regulators and users alike. Tony had planned for everything. Inside Stark HQ, Horizon facility, Tony watched the energy curve on a floating display, old grids, collapsing, new grid, decentralized. Clean. Autonomous, powered by people, not corporations. Natasha leaned in beside him, sipping coffee. You know they'll come at you harder now. He nodded, eyes on the data. They've already tried everything but honesty. Let's see how that works out. Revolution summary: 90 days post-Expo, global oil consumption down 74%. Petroleum wars over, cities running on microgrids, nations saving billions monthly, energy poverty reduced by 87%, gas stations closing, converted to charging/diagnostic kiosks. Final global headline that month: newspaper Stark Tech ends energy dependency, and probably changed civilization. FREVRN yet, this wasn't even the biggest thing he was planning. 6 months after the Expo, the Starfire was almost ready for its first test launch. Tony put 80% of his time into it and increased the number of construction robots. He even upgraded his AIs to handle the intense task. Johnny and Ben worked alongside Tony on the ship's engine and main core reactor. Although Tony has AIs, he still prefers to do it by hand with some personal touches. As for Sue, she was studying cosmic radiation and researching its effect on human biology. To increase her research speed and make it perfect, she needed real cosmic radiation or something similar. So, Tony managed to extract some energy from the Tesseract and gave it to Sue for her studies. Also, during these 6 months, Tony also made a body for Elena, out of the new gen nanites made from the natural adamantium. Yelena returned from Celestial Island after planting enough robots and left some widows to protect the place. The widows take turns to guard that isolated island. According to Tony's calculation, within the next year, they should be able to extract all the resources from that place. Apart from the natural adamantium, he also found some crystals that are capable of energy absorption. So, the robots are mining those stones. Since this operation was very big and he had very little time to watch over everything, Tony involved his dad and told him his plan. Well, Howard agreed to help him with new bases for the storage. Oh, what about S.H.I.E.L.D.? They are also running on micro-reactors. And Tony made sure to put in proper security measures. No one will be able to hack it or mess with it, and, I know some will say unemployment and all that. But as Tony said, there will be enough opportunities. For now, Stark Industries will hire people and won't go full automated. I plan to create a highly tech-advanced world. For that, some sacrifices will be made.